So in this video, I'm going to show some of the common mistakes and pitfalls and perhaps oversights that people might make when building a figure 4 deadfall. This is a handheld video. I don't have my tripod out here, so please forgive the shakiness in the video. But here we can see pretty much a standard figure 4 deadfall that somebody might set up. Okay. Normally you'd do something larger than that board, but this is for demonstration purposes. And you see we've got a couple things going. We've obviously got our hinge up front, our catch in the rear, and our trigger stick notched in nicely. I've seen a lot of figure 4s made just like this, and they work quite well. I mean, you take this little stick and tap, boom, and down we go. Okay, works exactly like it's supposed to. Except, what we're going to do is set up and show you the mistake in that one. So I'm going to go and pause this, reset the deadfall, and we'll come back and describe where the problem is. Okay, here you can see that we reset, have the deadfall set back up, and in the previous video you saw that it worked well, except this is where I see a lot of people having a problem. What they do is they make the trigger portion of their stick very short, very near the front of the deadfall. Except for very large, very heavy deadfalls, they don't kill by crushing, they kill by suffocation. The point is to have a heavy enough object fall on the prey and suffocate it before it can escape. Now, in this, a deadfall of this size with a larger mass would take something up to a squirrel. That'd be about the largest that I would expect to get out of this. Generally, you're going to get mice and other smaller things, but possibly a squirrel. Okay. These animals are very, very fast. They have unbelievably quick reactions. So when the trigger stick and the bait is here, we have all of this distance for the deadfall to fall before it makes contact with the prey. What we need to do is we need to move our trigger stick back into here. That way, when the deadfall goes off, there's a much smaller distance. And a much smaller distance means a much faster trap. That way the deadfall mass object falls onto the animal and catches it much quicker. Over here we have over twice the distance than we have back here, which is about twice the time in such a short distance. So an animal with quick reflexes will escape this very, very quickly. Right? So what I'm going to do is set up with another stick to show you exactly what I mean. Okay, here we are with the same deadfall set up, but you see this time, instead of ending right in here, we come way back near the pivot point, and we can have a bait pile right underneath here or bait on the end of the stick. Now when this deadfall falls, we're going to have a much faster reaction time, much more reliably capture prey. Okay. That's one of the first mistakes I see quite frequently. I'm going to pause this and show you another. Okay, you can see that we're set back up, and we've corrected our previous mistake of having the short trigger stick ending about here, and we've extended the trigger deeply into the pivot point of our mass. This is going to give our prey much less time to escape than if the trigger were out here. Okay. However, notice that here, our vertical stick and pivot point is below our mass object. Right? You always want to be sure that this half of the pivot is past your mass object. In other words, this stick is outside of this. I have seen deadfalls, especially with rocks and irregular objects, that have fallen straight down onto this stick. With a large enough mass, this stick would get stuck in soft ground and remain vertical. When the trap was flipped, they would trigger the trap, the sticks would go, and this mass would fall straight down and sit on top of that stick. And I have come out and seen tripped deadfalls sitting on top of this vertical stick. So what we want to be sure is that every time we have this vertical, that it is outside the edge here. Now this is greatly exaggerated to show you on film, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to reset it in a proper method and show you the difference. Here we go, we're back and we've reset our deadfall. We now have corrected two issues. We have a nice long trigger stick extending into the pivot point of the mass, and we also have ensured that the edge of our mass is behind this portion of the pivot. That way when our trigger stick is released, the mass will fall down either flipping this stick out of the way or pushing it to the side, and it will continue to fall straight down, even should this stick get stuck in soft ground. So those are two, and there is one more that I've seen that I'm going to set up, and this will be highly exaggerated, but proving a point. Okay, here we are, and I've set up in the final example that I want to show. And as you can see, our user has gone through and done a nice large bait stick into the center pivot point, really good. Okay, and our center stick, you can see that the mass is forward of the pivot point. That's great. So when this goes off, we're not going to have a problem with things catching around here. And down here, we're very near the pivot point. However, what they did, we'll come back, look at the extremely steep angle that was put on this. Right? This stick should be significantly shorter. 45 degrees like this is much too high. Generally about a 30-degree angle. As small an angle as you can get away with and still allow your intended prey to get in. What this does is effectively the same problem that we mentioned earlier with a short bait stick, is it allows a great deal more time than necessary to kill the animals. So in here, when we had the previous one, our mass was right through here, very, very low to the pivot stick. So, and a reaction to run, they'd have much less time. Here we have a significantly greater amount of time, and if we should happen to get something up near the front that maybe we would have caught, chances are this trap would never catch anything. You may see it set off frequently, bait taken, and never find anything in here. I hope these tips have really helped. I hope that it's something that has been beneficial, and if you have any comments or suggestions, please leave them in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. Thank you.